something else with your time, energy, resources. But yet you continually show up to make quilts, to pour your love into this, to make a difference in the world. Because you see, the world doesn't work right? How many people like to turn on the news right now? And I'm not even talking about political divisiveness. It breaks our heart, doesn't it? It just feels like, man, I don't know how much more I can take. Like our hearts are these, electrical panels. And at some point, it's just going to blow because there's just more. Too many things. And so we all know the phrase, ignorance is, right? I said that to a friend once, and he's like, you're right, Tim, ignorance is bliss. But remember this, it is not good. Because my ignorance comes at a cost, and I'm not the one who pays that cost. Somebody else does. If I choose to be ignorant, that means somebody else's pain, suffering, continues. And as followers of Jesus, we are not called to be ignorant people, are we? We are called to live with our eyes and our hearts open, allow them to be broken, and then actually believe that we might be able to do something about that pain and suffering. So thank you for choosing to live out your faith with LWR to do something about it. I also want to tell you what your giving does. How many people like to give to a black hole? We don't, do we? We want to give because we see a promise. But when we give, however that might look, we want to know our giving makes a difference. Right? Because when we know our giving makes a difference, what are we likely to do? More likely to give again, right? And give more. So I want to tell you what your giving is doing. Because I want to ask you to keep it. However that might look. To keep making quilts. You guys make kits here also?
We have in the past.
You have in the past. That's okay. However that might look. Yeah. Making quilts, giving financially. Right? Because quilts don't ship for free, and there's other work that we do. But I come to say thank you, to tell you what your giving is doing, and ask you to keep on giving because it's just more work. Sound good? So that's what what is the time frame we have? Either Pastor Mark or Anthony. What are people expecting? 11:30? Does that sound good? All right. We'll be out of here by then. Hopefully you can see the screen. We'll have pictures, videos. Like I said, videos are all closed captioned. Some of them, people are speaking their native language. Some are narrated in English. But we are celebrating 80 years of Lutheran World Relief. We started after World War II to help rebuild our neighbors' lives in Europe that have been destroyed. So it started in 1945. What you see here is an early, and does anybody need to move real quick, just to make sure you can see it well? All right. This is an early picture of all those material resources, quilts, and other items that have been collected being loaded onto a cargo ship to be taken overseas to Europe. But here's a little bit of our story over the past 80 years.
Years ago, our Lutheran forebears had a vision: to join together and be the body of Christ in the world, responding boldly to the needs of our neighbors in Europe after World War II. When they founded Lutheran World Relief in 1945, the outpouring of love was immense. Our grandparents got busy sewing quilts and organizing fundraising drives. Within just 14 years, American Lutherans have provided more than $100 million worth of aid. We were just getting started. From our parents, we learned to see Jesus in the eyes of a stranger. We learned to stitch and tie and bless our clothes and the people who received them. We learned to heed the voice that calls us to love our neighbors as ourselves. With each passing year, God opened our hearts to the ever-growing need in our hurting world. And so, over these 80 years of faithful service, our ministry together has grown. Today, together, we go where no one else goes, to the front lines of war and to places even hard can't reach. And we stay as long as we're needed to help families recover We can't predict where or when the next urgent needs may arise around the world or even in our own backyard. But we know we can always count on you to respond in love and create a brighter future for the next generation, nourishing the hungry, breaking the cycle of poverty, walking alongside families and communities so that everyone has a chance to thrive. Thank you for going farther, staying longer, and continuing the legacy of love that began 80 years ago until your love reaches every neighbor.
Gives you an idea what you have been part of, right? All those people that have gone before, all those people that are currently meeting like you are this morning, or did you say on Tuesday mornings when you normally meet? Right? And that will still continue. Started 1945 in Europe. We are now, over these past 12 months, have somehow been active in 36 countries around the world. That is where your love is. And you'll frequently hear me say we during our talk, during our time this morning. When I say we, it's an inclusive we. I don't mean we only Lutheran World Relief. I mean we as the body of Christ, right? So Paul talks about we all can't be the eyes, the ear, right? We all have our own role to play. Some people, they are living overseas. They are helping implement the work, right? They are more directly involved in that way. Some people, their role is to make the beautiful graphics and videos that we see. That is part of the work, right? Some people's work is to sew, cut, tie, box, carry, package, whatever it might be. That is part of the work. Some people's work is to write a check. Because like we said, the quilts don't ship for free. The work isn't done for free. That is all part of the work. So when I say we, I mean we. Not we, Lutheran World Relief. We, the body of Christ. So how does that work take place? We all know the old adage, right? If you give someone a fish, you feed them for a day. You teach them to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. Oftentimes we think it's one or the other, when in reality it's a both and. It doesn't matter if you live next to the best school in the world. If you don't know where your next meal is coming from, it will not matter. If you do not have a safe place to sleep, it will not matter, because you are so concerned with getting those urgent, immediate needs met. You're not able to do those other things. And so we work always in those ways. Emergency humanitarian response, right? That's more of the give someone a fish. What do you need to survive the day? That's oftentimes how people think about Lutheran World Relief, right? It's the war in Ukraine. Remember the earthquakes in Turkey 2 years ago? Also, what we just started now is disaster response in the United States, in North Carolina and Florida with the hurricanes and the wildfires in California. But that's emergency humanitarian response. Also, it takes place in areas that aren't in the news, which is why when you give financially, unrestricted giving is the best. Because if we only give to the news, what we hear in the news, how does that news cycle function? It's always turning over, isn't it? And then we don't even hear about so many places that need our help. And so unrestricted giving helps us to work where it's needed most. But emergency humanitarian response, South Sudan, you'll hear about that here in a little bit. The ongoing civil war that's happening. Democratic Republic of Congo, Nepal, we're doing emergency humanitarian response. Closely aligned with that is quilts and kits. That's the other way people know about us oftentimes. Been doing it for decades, as you said, 30, 40 years. Someone said they came in, I've heard about Lutheran World Relief my entire life. Right? And oftentimes that's because quilts. I just had somebody earlier this week, they were saying, I remember as a kid, my grandma was making quilts in her house for Lutheran World Relief. And we'd go on occasion and help tie them. Right? This was back in the 70s. So that's how people know us. What people don't oftentimes associate with LWR, though, is to find out if it's just the biggest slice of the pie, but it's one that is not as well known, is the long-term sustainable development. It is asking the question, what is causing poverty, suffering, and injustice to persist, and how do we address it at the root causes in long-term ways? We would like to live in a world in which LWR does not need to exist. Wouldn't that be nice? So how do we approach our work with that in mind? Sometimes you need a Band-Aid because you got to stop the bleeding. We want to not just address the immediate needs, long-term, lift people out of poverty where they are not dependent on a certain program, but systems have been set up. Also, oftentimes, I actually should ask if we can have this done more as a Venn diagram, because so many projects encompass more than one just part of it. It's not just humanitarian response, it's not just quilts and kits, it's not just long-term sustainable development, but it encompasses all three of them. But we're going to take a little bit of time looking at each of those types of work, and we're going to start with quilts and kits and spend a little more time on that as well. All right? So, quilt and kit ministry. This is where we're going to begin. We only have data for the last 25 years. But if you saw, right, started in 1945, in the first 14, 15 years, $100 million worth of stuff had been collected and raised. So you can only imagine what these numbers would be. In the last 25 years, over 9 million quilts, 11 square miles, 5,300 football fields. Think about how many of those quilts you have been part of. Kits, personal care kits, right, stuff we run to CVS or Target for, towels, nail clippers, combs, soap, toothbrush, those kind of items. School kits, things we run to Target for, oftentimes notebooks, crayons, pencils, pens, rulers, and baby care kits, cloth diapers, safety pins, blankets, sweatshirts, t-shirts. Over almost 9.5 million kits have gone out in the last 25 years. And I love this last one, to nearly half the world. Right? Think about what you have touched, what you have put your love into, what you have hoped conveys signs of hope, where that has gone around the world. Right? So we're going to look at some examples where that has gone. We'll begin just right here in the U.S. Most recently, like I said, we have been active, are now active when disasters strike in the United States. And I always like to be clear about this. This isn't an instead of, as if we're stopping work somewhere so we can work within the U.S. It is an in addition to. We have the capacity to, because people keep making quilts, because they keep putting together kits. We have the capacity to respond, because churches have the desire that when disaster strikes in the U.S., they want to give to help here. We say, okay, we can do that. So just from Hurricanes Helene and Milton, we worked in 7 states, 60,000 quilts, 76,000 kits, $500,000 in cash grants. So going out to families through other agencies in the form of gift cards, whatever it might be that people need. So one of those places that we worked in, Asheville, North Carolina, was in a transitional housing facility for veterans that were homeless, that had that facility destroyed. It was actually a 2-story, looked like a motel, where the water rose all the way up into the 2nd floor. So all of their possessions were destroyed. So we worked with another organization to get them housed in a local hotel in the time being until they get things figured out. And they also received personal care kits and quilts. This gentleman's name is Rick Deaver, who received one of those quilts. This is him in his hotel room where he had laid the quilt out, and this is what he says after receiving it. He said, oh, here we go. Ma'am, I put that new quilt on my bed, and the room just shone with those beautiful colors. Thank you for the hope. Thank you for the love that was put into that quilt. Right? That's something I've heard over and over, that quilts aren't just quilts. It is a tangible sign of hope. It is a tangible sign of love that lets people know I'm not alone. Somebody cares. But that's in the U.S. Up until then, quilts have always gone globally, right? Around the world. And that's the picture you have when you make these quilts. Where are they going overseas? Who are they being wrapped around? How are they being utilized? So I want to have a video and talk a little bit about how they're being used in Tanzania to help prevent stunting in babies. And what you'll hear about, because of the poor conditions that the babies are living in, they are so cold, the food they are eating is being used to keep them warm, not to help them grow both emotionally, mentally, and physically. And your quilts are being used to combat that problem.
Stunting is a condition caused by chronic malnutrition in early years of child's development, and it's quite actually prevalent in Tanzania. Stunted children are most likely to get sick. They take longer to recover because they have compromised immune system. They have developmental delays, and they have difficulty learning.
When I hear that such a big number of children are stunted, understanding the effects of the long-term effects of stunting, it's really painful because it is also related to inability of children to develop to their potential mentally.
One important study was done by Ifakara Health Institute in 2020, and they looked into drivers of stunting in Jombe region beyond nutritional intake. Jombe is one of the coldest areas in Tanzania. It's mountainous region, and during the home visits, they observed that children often sleep on a cold floor and with very little or no clothes on, and concluded that children, instead of using the food intake energy to grow, they're using that energy to keep their body warm. So that was contributing to stunting. When we heard about the study, we immediately thought about Lutheran World program. And we thought how this could help us keep those kids warm in Jombe.
The schools came to the very appropriate time because it's the cold conditions. They have really touched the lives at in the very appropriate time.
We were able to mobilize support and bring clothes to Tanzania, and we're expecting one more shipment, and we hope to reach close to 9,000 children with this assistance.
Thanks so much for whoever, for the good children and for the kids.
Thank you to persons on the other side of the globe for all the great work and dedication, and for bringing words of their hearts to children of Tanzania. It's very important. Thank you so much. Asante sana.
Exactly. Right? It's not right. That babies, the food they eat is being used simply for energy to stay warm instead of grow. So you talk about long-term sustainable development, how quilts are being used in that way. If kids are able to stay warm, and then they're allowed to actually grow physically, emotionally, mentally, they'll perform better when they get to go to school. And if they perform better when they get to go to school, what will that mean long term? But if they are stunted as babies, what does that mean long term? It compounds itself. So the question is, do we want to compound things negatively, or do we want to compound things positively? You are helping to compound things positively when you make those quilts, and they are able to wrap a little baby up in it. So thank you for doing that. a minute to come up. In Turkey is another place in which quilts and personal care kits and other things have gone. Turkey, when the earthquakes occurred, which we don't even hear about anymore. If I sit here just for a minute, Anthony, is that okay also? All right. Sorry, Pastor Mark, we're going to have the poll right here. The earthquakes occurred in Turkey, in the Hatay province, in the city of Antakya. The city of Antakya is 2 million people, and it is just utter devastation. Vast majority of buildings suffered some kind of damage where if they didn't crumble, they will need to come down. And so in the video, you'll see example of that as cars, when we were driving by, and you get to see just building after building in devastation. It is into that area in which Leila Gulieres, you can see her there, has a personal care kit, a baby care kit, and also is recipients of quilts. And as opposed to me telling her story, I'll let her tell it herself. This one, she's speaking in Turkish, so you have to read along with the closed captioning to understand.
Aynı yerdeydik ama tek bir fark evimiz vardı. Şu an şurada yaşıyoruz. Sırada kalıyoruz aynı şekilde. Ondan sonra da biz hepimiz kaldık. Şehir dışına depremden sonra çoğu kişi çıktı. Biz çıkamadık. Kızımızı satmıştık. Çok zor oluyor. Kimi günler yıkanmadan o günlerde ister istemez oluyor. Annem babam kronik hasta. Şimdi bebeğimiz de var. Şöyle bu depremden sonra elektrik kesintilerimiz çok fazla olmaya başladı. Biz normalde elektrikli sobayla birazcık ısınmaya çalışıyorduk. Merdan olduğu için odun sobası yakamıyoruz. Yakmak istesek bile bazen yakıtımız olmuyordu. Yaşamak biraz daha güç oluyor ama ayakta durmaya çalışıyoruz. Geceleri çok aşırı şiddetli soğuk oluyor yani. Sonuçta bir merdivenin altında yaşadığımız için soğuğu daha çok hissediyoruz. Tercihimizde zaten yalnız hiç durmadı. Sanan battaniyelerimiz de oldu. Isınmamız çok güç oldu daha doğrusu. Eve girip bir şeyler çıkaramıyorsun çünkü evde hiçbir şey kalmamıştı. Bizim duvarlar anında çöktü. Şu an hiçbir şey kalmadı. Yani.
Maybe this will start looking familiar to you. A church that's quilting, boxing them up. They're going to an in-gathering. And then this is a warehouse in the Baltimore area. Each of those is about 35 quilts in those bags. And this is the warehouse in Turkey. So then they're being delivered, and then an organization delivers them on our behalf.
Sizden çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Getirdiğiniz her şey için. Getirdiğiniz şeylerle daha iyi bir şekilde ısınmamızı sağlayacak. Özellikle kendimize. Çünkü ulaşmamız çok zor. Yani bizi düşündüğünüz için yanımıza geldiniz. Her şey için teşekkür ediyorum.
So a little bit also about our work in Turkey. As I said, it overlaps the emergency humanitarian response, all the other ones. Most people, there you saw Layla, she said the difference for them is, right, they're living in a tent, not in their house anymore. So they own the house, they own a piece of property, so they are living in a tent on that property. Many people lived in apartments, right? And when that came down, they didn't own the land, they have nowhere to go. So we partnered with another organization and with several others to build, and these were going up all over the place, a container city. So you think about like a prefabricated home, like a shipping container, right? About a modular home, about the size of that. If I had to estimate the size, maybe something from this wall here to here, just to that back wall to there is what about the size of it. Designed to house 4 people. Maybe 5. Inside, there was a bedroom with a bed and a wardrobe. then a living area that had an efficiency kitchen with a hot plate, sink, mini fridge, and then it also had a private bathroom, stand-up shower, toilet, and sink. So they had electricity, they had plumbing in the ones that we had built. Because for many people, they were living in Army surplus style tents, which are designed to last 4 or 5 months. And you saw that devastation in the video. That's not something that is taken care of in 4 or 5 months. That's going to take 4 or 5 years. And so people will have better housing to last during that time. And if they find a place to go, they can move out and somebody else can move in. So that's one way in which Your Love and we are acting together in Turkey. Many of those other container cities that had gone up, each container would not have its own private bathroom. Instead, they had to have communal showers and communal bathrooms, which how many people don't like camping because of communal bathrooms and showers, right? Also, they can be very dangerous places for vulnerable people. So we partnered with another organization to build a safe space for women and girls to go to, free, so they can have a private shower, community, a salon to get hair done, and to have a bit more dignity restored and to feel a bit more human as well. And so that was another way in which we are working. Because it's always asking not just who are the vulnerable people, but within that vulnerable community, who are the vulnerable people there as well, right? There's always different layers and different levels to our vulnerability. And so those are other ways in which we are working in Turkey as well. But that's a bit about quilts and kits. Thoughts or questions so far before we move on to more specific emergency, that is more just emergency humanitarian response? Yeah.
Some of them aren't 60 by 80 quilts.
I think they need to be that dimension because we are known for the quality and consistency of what we give. And so you don't want things going out to communities that all of a sudden people are being handed things and it's not all the same. Right? Because then why'd you get? So it all needs to be consistent in that way. So you can use it, it just needs to be cut down to the proper size. If things come in and it's, they can't have religious symbols on it, national symbols on it. That's you saw in the video of Layla in the warehouse, the woman spreading it out. They get inspected to make sure they are the right dimensions, so they don't have inappropriate things on it. And if that happens, they get donated locally. So, because they do, sometimes that happens. So that's about quilts and kits. And I love that I see the poster up there already. I brought one with me just in case. So I love that you already have it up. So we will move on to emergency humanitarian response. This example is happening in South Sudan. So again, this is why unrestricted giving is so important, because how often do we hear about South Sudan in the news? And yet it's one of the worst humanitarian crises going on in the world right now because of an ongoing civil war. And so this woman's name is Nayalet Shual, and this video is going to share her story of having to travel 70 miles with 5 kids to make it to a displacement camp, only for her to get sick there and not have access to proper health care.
Nayalet Shual has been running for her life ever since she can remember. But last year, her husband was killed in South Sudan's ongoing civil war. She wasn't sure how she could go on with all the challenges mounting against her. For 4 years in a row, the rainy season had brought massive floods that never subsided. 2/3 of the country was covered by water. There was nowhere left for cattle to graze, nowhere for families to plant gardens. Nayalet's village ran out of food. The young widow had no choice but to pack up her 5 children and search for a new place to live. For 6 days, the family walked, being chased by violent tribes and carrying nothing but each other. After a journey of nearly 70 miles, they finally arrived at a displacement camp. Here, they found food, shelter, and refuge, but Nyla's challenges weren't over. Two of her babies, 4-year-old Nayan and 2-year-old Mara, became gravely ill with measles. Fortunately, thanks to your compassion, Lutheran World Relief runs a medical clinic at the camp. Health workers stabilized the children, but they were severely malnourished and needed advanced treatment. The problem? The hospital was only accessible by boat. Nyla's heart sank. She'd walked this far to save her children. Would they die because she didn't have a canoe? Then she learned the camp had a motorboat, purchased by caring congregations and stewards. The boat carries medical supplies between camps and serves as an ambulance in emergencies, cutting the 5-hour commute trip down to 1 hour. Thanks to your generosity, Nayan and Mar arrived at the hospital just in time. Their journey is far from over, but today they are healthy and strong. Thank you for helping families like Nayan find hope and a chance to thrive. Who will your love reach next?
When I see this video and all these videos, it makes me think of my own privilege that I have in life. I have 3 kids, 22, 20, and 18. My 20-year-old is my daughter, Olivia. She was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 9 years old. Think, what if this is us? What if that's where she was born? She's not around today. And I think about even Nyla getting to the displacement camp, needing better health care, having to have a boat because of the flooding that goes on. If my daughter, Olivia, needs diabetic medicine, right? Needs insulin, needs any of her equipment, we don't have to go anywhere. She's at school about 15 minutes away. She texts me and says, Dad, I pick up my phone, or I'm at my computer, and I log into the website or go to the app. I put in what I need, what she needs. Literally a day or 2 later, my dog barks because the UPS truck is outside, right? It goes on the steps. I don't even have to step outside my door. I open it up, and it is literally right there where I can just bend over, pick it up. That's privilege. and there are times in which, let's say we're not able to get it in time, we literally have a CVS a half mile from my house where I can go there to get it. And it has happened before where the CVS doesn't have the insulin. My wife works at a local hospital. My wife has had her prescription transferred to the hospital. On her way out the door at 4:30, she stops at the outpatient pharmacy, picks up what is needed, and brings it home. That's incredible. There's nothing wrong with having healthcare like that. What's wrong is that everybody else doesn't have healthcare like that, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with having privilege, but it's acknowledging it and then asking ourselves, what do we do with the privilege we have? How do we ensure other people have access to things that we take for granted? You know what I mean? Because that's not right to be in that situation, to travel 70 miles with 5 kids. I mean, that's just the strength it takes to do that. I can only hope to have that kind of strength. But this, again, is why unrestricted giving is so important as well. The boat that they talked about, right? The program was funded by a grant, but yet unrestricted giving allowed it to be supplemented in other ways. So where it fell short, a boat was able to be purchased. So that 5-hour canoe ride is now down to 1, and it can transport medicine between camps as needed. So that is an example of emergency humanitarian response that is happening around the world. I'd like to share one story about long-term sustainable development. So again, this is asking the question, what is causing poverty, suffering, and injustice to persist? And how do we address it at root systemic ways? This woman's name is Pavanati, and she is going to talk about the training and the women's group that she is part of to make what are called potter mats, but essentially it's a mat to be used on the floor of a home or a hut, and how they are now able to make a higher quality mat, sell it at a better price, and what that means for the long-term future of her family, and her community. This one, she's speaking in her own language, so you'll need to be able to follow along and read the closed captioning.
हमार नाम के पबनी बसी चौधरी मुनैत रहे छे गाना गावे छे आ मुनैत रहे छे आ मतलब बैठले रहबे त हम लोग के दुईटा हाथ से पहले हम लोग के बेरोजगार ये त सागुनो लगाइले नहीं भेटे छले पैसा हम लोग के चौकियों गठन के लिए पिछड़ा महिला उद्धार समूह तो मतलब रोजगार करे के हम लोग के सलाह करिए हम लोग के मतलब रंग सुपरी के हम लोग के कहिए तालीम गेले ओने सब कोई करे छे कोई बैठल नहीं रहे वो इन्हें हम देख के संगे संगे सब चीज करे छे साथी के हम लोग के सब गठन करके पटेर के आना लिए सुखाइए तकरा सब कोई मिल के हम लोग व्यापारी आवे से घरे से ले जाए छे गुंदरी और ले हटियो ले जाए छे आ पहले कमे दाम में बिके चले सर आए खाना में नहीं पूरे चले सर बच्चों की पढ़ाई में पूरे चले कि जैसे बिरामियों में नहीं पूरे चले ऋण सापत्ति नहीं चलिए मैंने चले अपनी तो बेसी दाम में बेचे छे बनाइए तो हम लोग बेसी पैसा दे छे वो से धियापुता के पढ़ाई ले है तो मुझे पूरा सब कुछ जाए छे घरों बना लेलिए हमें तो वही में दूसरी घर रहे हम लोग यही करे छे सब कोई बचत रखे छे जकरा आवश्यकता पड़े छे मतलब पढ़े ओकरे दे छे घूमती समूह में या नहीं बाजल सके छलिए ला दे छलिए तो भतरे छलिए नमस्कारो तनिक नहीं करे ले सके छलिए अपन समूह में हम लोग के बैठिए एक दूसरी भेलिए तो अपन सब के नमस्कार करे छिए बाजियो ले सके छिए बहुत बात सिखलिए बहुत बुद्धि भेले बहुत ज्ञान भेले और हम लोग के चाहे कि और देते करते गांव घर के लोग के नहीं कहते से के मतलब और ऊपर ना है
Yeah, I love that video. So many different levels or layers in which life is improved. You know, by receiving training, supplies, like I said before, you heard her say it, higher quality product, which means you can sell it for a better price. She's also saying they'll come to her. They'll come to them directly to buy the mat. They don't just have to always take them to market. So that's better. Plus, when you can sell it for more, before they have money for food, they have money for education, they have money for health care, they have a better house, send their kids to school, savings and loan program. I mean, talk about what's going to have an impact years down the road, generations down the road. And I like showing this one too, because she talks about the community that comes with it. You know, they're all together. Makes me think of quilting groups. You come together, nobody's idle, everybody's working. And then I forgot this. My favorite part too is we talked about the self-confidence that comes before being ashamed in front of people, not able to make her point, now able to introduce themselves, able to speak. Works in so many different ways. And so that's just a great example of the long-term sustainable work that happens because of caring congregation and the support and the generosity have so many more stories I could share, but we just don't have time to it. This is also in Nepal. Javantri, there on the right, he was part of a program in which he learned about banana farming and was given, I don't know how many banana sapling trees, has turned it into almost a commercial banana farm, and is now training other people. That gentleman on the left is Ramachwar, that's his neighbor who saw what was going on and wanted to be involved and learn about it. So Javantri trained him. We have another program, this is just starting up in Sierra Leone, about keeping girls in school and working with schools there. One, with the school to help them keep better track of who's teaching, who's in school, who's not in school, but then going out into communities and finding out who aren't in school and why aren't they in school. And so there's a lot of problems, especially for girls, because of poverty. Sometimes they get married off as a young girl because the family needs money or they can't afford it. Then the girl gets pregnant and isn't in school. Or the family, there's a video that I've seen which they talks about that essentially the family prostitutes them out. The girls get pregnant. So it's not even in marriage, it's just so the family can earn money. Or the family needs to keep them at home so they have to work. And so they don't go to school. So it's going out in the community to finding out who is in school, who's not in school, and helping them come back to school. So one of the ways doing that isn't just working with the schools, but then giving cash assistance to the families. As little as $10 a month makes all the difference in the world for families to keep the girls out of other situations and enables them to go to school. So that's in Sierra Leone that is going on. But like I said, I don't have time to share all these stories, but if you'd like them, you have cards on your table that look like this. But I also, have you heard or seen of the Quilting Kit Affinity Pin? Anybody seen that? So, while I don't have T-shirts for you, but I will pass on to people interested. I do have these Quilting Kit Affinity Pins. So it's the shape of a heart, almost like it's been quilted together, that I would love to leave with everybody. What I ask is, we don't know who quilts. And we don't even know all the churches that quilt, because people can come, participate, and then go home. Churches can come, make everything, drop them off at an in-gathering or drop them off in Baltimore, but we don't really have that kind of interaction. I would love to keep saying thank you and to tell you the impact you are doing. So this is what is asked of me to ask of you. If you'd like a pin, fill out one of those cards. I didn't put one on the table for you over here, but now you have one. Fill out one of those cards, and then I'll give you a pin. And if you fill out a card, I ran out. Oh, look, you even moved ahead for me. I ran out of coffee before my last trip, or before this trip. But we'll do a drawing. And last time I did coffee, this time I'll do chocolate. There you go. I don't have it with me, but I'll mail it to either Anthony or Pastor Mark, who will get it to the right person. So fill out a card, get a pen, get a chance to win chocolate. This is where the chocolate comes from, another of our long-term sustainable projects. It comes from Peru. We have a women's cooperative called Quarry Warmy. You can see it, the lettering in the pink. That is the native language for Women of Gold, which is a women's cooperative in Peru. And in this area of Peru, it's called the Brain. It's a very remote area where the Amazon and the Andes come together. They grow two things there. Coca, which the leaf of the coca plant is where we get cocaine from. And does anyone know what that pod there is? It's a cocoa pod. Yeah, it's where we get chocolate from, the bean inside there. I never would have known that until I learned about this project. So we formed a women's cooperative called Quarry Warmy to teach women how to grow chocolate, process it, and then distribute it, and you can buy it on our website. So we'll do a drawing. Somebody will get a chocolate bar that I'll send in the mail, and you'll just have to get it later because I don't have it for you today, so I apologize for that.
You'll have to share it.
There you go.
So not get shared.
He does not have much confidence in you.
It's food, of course I don't.
So So, you have pens, you have cards on the table. As you fill that out, I'll show you one last video as a thank you, but just as a reminder, it is our 80th anniversary. I am asking congregations, as you consider future giving, whatever it might look like, please consider making an extra gift this year or an increase in your giving, because the work just doesn't stop. There's just more work to do that we don't know about. So I'll leave some information either with you, Anthony, or Pastor Mark, with resources for congregations and kind of goal setting that you might do to think about, hey, we're going to make a gift this year in this amount, maybe $50 a year for 80 years of LWR, or whatever it might be. We make this many quilts, and we're going to do $100 a quilt and give it, whatever it might look like. But please consider giving an extra gift or an increase in gift this year, because the work just isn't stopping. But as you fill out this card, if you remember, I came to do three things. What was the first thing I came to do? Say thank you. So that's what we'll end with here.
Earthquakes and flooding, conflict and violence, hunger and extreme poverty. Where there is suffering, your love is there. Since 1945, following the Second World War, Lutheran World Relief has worked ceaselessly to end poverty, injustice, and human suffering. We provide aid in emergency and help families restore their lives. We partner with communities to build and grow rural economies. We break the cycle of poverty so families and communities can thrive. For nearly 80 years, you have responded to God's call to be the body of Christ in the world. Because of you, we reach further, stay longer, and stand faithfully alongside our neighbors in need. Because of you, hundreds of thousands of families have been comforted by LWR quilts and kits. Because of you, the hardest to reach neighbors in Peru are leading their communities out of poverty. Because of you, a mother in Mali is rejoicing that her child has enough food to eat and grow after the brink of famine. Because of you, a family in Ukraine has access to mobile medical clinics and can get life-saving health care despite living amid ongoing violence. Because of you, hope is being restored.
Я вдячна дуже. У мене немає просто вже.
Después más unidades en el día.
Who will your monthly check?
Thoughts, questions? Yeah, Anthony.
Real quick question. We're filling out these cards, but
Yeah.
we already received the information. Are they calling the list? Because
Yes.
I can tell you right now, we get you told us about that, we get 5 sets of it.
Yeah, you got, yes. If
Okay.
your email is already in there,
All right.
you will not, it should not double it up.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, yes, please.
You make a monetary donation.
Yeah,
I called the office in Baltimore. and
Okay.
I really didn't get the answer.
okay,
What percentage, let's say you send $100,
yeah.
what percent of that goes for,
Program versus administrative?
yeah,
We're at about the 85 cents on the dollar goes to program versus administrative.
that's not good.
Yeah, they really are mindful of money that comes in and doing our best to, right? So 85 cents a dollar goes to program, 10, 15 cents on the dollar, 15, 20 cents on the dollar goes to administrative, which is really highly rated. If you look us up on Charity Watchdog, all that kind of stuff.
Navigator has yours as one of the highest.
Yeah,
That's very good.
yeah. So we do our best. Yeah. Obviously, I heard it put this way, paper clips aren't free, right? So all that stuff has to be paid for. I have a family, you know, that I send kids to college, and we live in a house, and so I need a salary, but we try and be mindful of all that you entrust us with. Because you want it to go to this. But this is a necessary thing also, so we can continue to get money to go to that, or quilts and kits. Yeah.
I got some
Great.
fabric kits.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at that. It's like one for the size, enough fabric to make a piece of clothing for a woman or a child or something like that. What are the? I mean, you got to start from scratch and make something out of it.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you, but I know what is included in all of the kits isn't just an arbitrary thing where that sounds nice, but it is a curated, consulted with other organizations, other people that do this, that is a proper amount. So I wish I could tell you more of what.
It's 2 pieces of cloth, washed red,
Yeah.
which I think is a good idea.
Yes.
But just that was something new to me. I've done other. We've done other kits. We've done child care with 3 diapers in it.
Yep.
It's hard to find baby safety pins.
It's hard. And then to find them in the right amounts. You know, I've done this when I was at church in Wisconsin. We put together baby care kits. And man, it's like hot dogs and hot dog buns. Right? It's 6 and 8 or 8 and 12. They never match up quite right.
That information, on their website itself, they have all of the guides as PDFs. If you want me to print any of them out, let me know. I'll print some of them out. All right, that's what I can do. Their website is very comprehensive.
Yeah.
In reference to the quilts and the kits.
One time we had a lot of motel kits.
Yeah.
And all the leftover soap.
Mm-hmm.
We collected that.
Mm.
And made nylon net bags and sewed them in. And we just shake it in the water. You can do the laundry.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of different things with it. Excellent.
And it started out with just making quilts for people. We had one pattern, and I think this one seamstress that happened to be my sister-in-law. We would make them at some money. It's pretty darn cheap. Yeah, now that I think of it, it just keeps the group going.
Yeah.
And but then we heard about Lutheran, and then we just started making quilts.
Thank you.
And they go from here. They gathered in Redeemer Church in Lyman, and then they go to Windsor.
Yeah, outside Windsor, Maryland. I just say Baltimore because people don't know Windsor.
I was wondering if it's
same one. Yep, they go to New Windsor Warehouse.
Kind of nice to know.
Yeah.
They have a home.
Yep, that's where they go. Thank you.
So it's probably state the obvious, but there's history going on now here.
Mm-hmm.
This is much more important than it was, say, a year ago, because the funding has to see some of these presentations, especially with the children and measles and things like that. Getting the information out and getting the things to these people is real important.
That's right.
This presentation should probably be done in a lot of places.
And that is my job, right? Yeah. This is, I will be at 14 churches this week.
Yeah.
I started off Sunday preaching in Florham Park, New Jersey. And Sunday I am preaching in New Providence, New Jersey. So this week I'm all in New Jersey, right? Just going around. I've been to Morristown outside Pennsylvania, Princeton, Croton-on-Hudson in New York, you know, close to West Point area up there. I've been, other trips, Manasquan, Red Bank, all over the place. Yeah, to get it out because the work is ever growing and the resources need to be fewer and fewer.
They're shrinking and they will shrink.
Yeah, and so we are more and more dependent on congregations to give. You know, people ask, what is the most powerful way to give? Honestly, the unrestricted dollar is the most powerful dollar. You know, keep making quilts and kits and giving financially is extremely important. Anthony?
Is there, this presentation is wonderful, but
Thank you.
Is there any presentation that is basically self-guided where we can just plug the USB in and let it run, like the ads in the supermarket idea?
Right. I can get any video you want.
Well, I would suggest.
But I don't have a presentation per
I
se.
think that's something that would be handy because during our social hour before services,
Yeah.
we'd be running a loop of the information. And because, I mean, there's a limit to it here.
Right.
But it would be nice that we could share something out with all this information. I mean, I'm on the website. I've seen all your information.
Right.
But I would suggest we do something like that.
You got it.
Have it be something.
Thank you for that suggestion. I'll pass it on to have something like that. But and so again, if you'd like a video to show, I can get you any of those, whether on YouTube link or downloadable as well. So, other thoughts or questions? People have cards I can collect, and then we'll do a drawing, and then I'll give you your pins. He's going to get chocolate here. Oh, all right. Here we go.
We have actually, Naomi, what's Naomi's last name? If you could say thank you to Naomi Pollock for me on the screen, because she does a lot of our crystal stuff and sends them to us.
Is it going right now, Anthony?
Yes, it is.
Naomi Pollock, thank you. I hear you do all of the quilt tops. And that is a lot of work, and it makes it so much easier. So when they are done, people can come in and do the bottom, the batting, the quilt top, and then tie them. So well done, and keep it up.
And she is where?
Minnesota.
Something better.
I'll give that right back to you. You got it. We'll just do a drawing, then I'll give it back to you.
Okay.
Sound good? So then you can finish it up. I'll pick that up so that person gets a chance to win too. All right. We'll see who's going to get that chocolate bar. Anthony.
Call someone else.
All right, Anthony said call someone else. We wanted to get to a quilter. Here we go. Janet Oberg. Who's Janet? There you go. All right, let me give you yours back. Excellent. All right. I just want to say again, thank you. Thank you for your time this morning, and thank you for all that you have done, and will continue to do. I appreciate it. Yes, the Obergs. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Oh, and here, I'll let you, if you fill one out, I'll let you just come up and pick one up. I'll leave on the table out here, okay? Yeah, so please get a pin on your way out, okay? Thank you. Oh, yeah. Let me explain that, too, if I can have your attention another minute. Pastor Mark brought up a great point and asked, we are a pan-Lutheran organization. We are not directly affiliated with the ELCA. So what pan-Lutheran means is we have no direct affiliation with any denomination. We are faith-based that works primarily with Lutheran congregations. Missouri, so like, what's today, Friday? Wednesday night, I was at a Missouri church in Princeton for their soup supper and did a similar presentation, then worshiped with them afterwards. NALC, the North American Lutheran Church, and the LCMC, Lutheran Church Mission of Christ, which I don't think either of them have a very strong presence at all out here. But I will work with all, or any of them are able to give and participate in the work that we do. I don't have any Wisconsin Synod churches.
There's only one in the state.
Yeah. Yeah, and even in the state of Wisconsin or the Midwest, we're more prevalent.
You're more there,
yeah. Yeah, I don't have any that I work with.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I'm more pan-Lutheran. I started in November.
Well, and now you made your way here.
Mostly here. Oh, thank you very much. That door was through summer.
Oh, right, yeah. Excellent. All right, so come get your pen. Oh, thank you very much. Okay, good luck with that.
And we have coffee.
All right.